Hey you guys, my name's Jeff. Welcome to the channel. If you've been here before, then welcome back. Today I want to talk with you guys about apex predators and how they relate to your investing. Now you guys have probably heard about what apex predators are, but just a quick review. An apex predator is an animal at the top of the food chain. We're talking about lions, we're talking about alligators, about white sharks. We're talking about all the animals that don't have a natural predator of their own. And so like when we're thinking about a great white shark, they're swimming through the water. They're not worried about other little fishies coming in and nipping at them and, eating them in a couple of bites. Same with the lion, out on the Serengeti. So I had originally told you guys that the great white shark is an apex predator, but that was incorrect, and I just learned something and I wanted to set this straight. So if you're talking to your friends about apex predators, you get this fact correct. The great white shark was originally considered an apex predator of the ocean. However, the orca, the killer whale, has proven to be a predator of the great white shark. So therefore, the orca whale is the true apex predator, but the great white shark is not. Well, I've been thinking about finance and investing YouTube. And this is something that, I'm trying to figure out, why are there so many channels and there's so much excitement about watching what people have to say? And I think that a lot of these investment YouTubers, myself included, we're trying to find like some next big thing, the perfect stock or the perfect ETF or whatever it is to buy so that you can beat the market, so you can make more money than everybody else. Duh, right? So that's kind of the challenge. And, having had some time in investing for many, many years, I've come to the realization that it is very, very hard to beat the market, to outsmart the next guy or gal, because it's, you're part of the market yourself. So every time you make an investment in some company and buy its stock, somebody else is making the decision to sell that stock. So you're just a part of this huge universe of investors, and you only get to keep the returns or the stock winnings minus whatever kind of taxes you have to pay getting in and out of the stocks and any kind of transactional or frictional costs. So it's really hard, that's all I'm saying, to beat the next investor. Now this brings me to apex stocks or apex investments. And, I gotta say right off the bat, I am not a big risk taker when it comes to investing. So guys, if you've been watching this channel a while, you probably know I'm not buying crypto. I'm not YOLOing all my money into GameStop. I've never bought or sold a put or a call option. I'm just not betting on the directions of things. So then when it comes to picking stocks, you can win, in my view, in two main ways. There are kind of two ways that the stock world is divided, okay? One of them is called value investing. And so in that case, you're trying to buy the stock of a company when it's really cheap. And the idea is you're getting a bargain, all right? You're buying this great valuable asset at a discount. The only problem is everybody else is able to Google and search on the internet for the same information to find out whether or not this stock makes sense. So for most of the companies like Apple and Microsoft and Amazon and Nvidia, everybody is searching for this stuff. So any kind of discrepancy in the difference between the price you're paying and the value you're getting has probably been over-examined. It's been looked at by so many people that it's really hard to pick a huge stock like that, a big company, at a discount. I'm not saying it can't happen, and it doesn't happen, but it's very hard because you're fighting in this war. You are battling people when you're buying and selling stock. Believe it or not, it's a huge marketplace of people all around the United States, all around the world, who are placing their bets by buying and selling that they're smarter than you. So on the one side, you've got value, and that's buying stocks at a bargain, or ETFs or anything. And then on the other side, you've got growth. And that's basically saying, look, I'm not so concerned about what the price is. I just want to see the stock go up. I want to see the company increase its revenues. Maybe it's not profitable yet. but as long as it's making, taking in a lot of money and it seems to be growing, then I'm happy. But that can lead to a lot of problems, as we've seen in the past couple years, where investors pour into stocks of companies that are either for a short time making a lot of profit, like, for example, Peloton, but then things change, or they're just betting that the price is going to go higher and higher. I could list off 10 stocks. I know you can too, so I won't go into that. But the idea of growth is just, I want to buy something whether it's growing, as long as it's growing, whether it's profitable or not. There are problems there too. Anybody who bought high-priced stocks in 2020 or 2021 and has seen those prices come down 30%, 40%, 50%, you know what I'm talking about. So Apex stocks, what is this all about? First of all, you're not going to find this anywhere else. This is an idea that I came up with, been thinking about, because I went on this nature retreat a little while ago. We were like bird watching and looking at all these kind of wild animals. And one of the things I saw as we turned the corner, we were walking along this lake, was a animal. I want to lead up to it, but I'm just going to tell you what it was. I'm going to show you what it was. It was an otter like this, except it was a real otter. So it's like this, even more adorable, and really fast, quick moving. And it was sitting on a log, and it was eating a fish. And the guy who was leading this nature walk told us that it was a bull trout, and it was like devouring this fish. It was eating, I think it was starting at the tail, and it had just been eating all of the meat all the way up its body, and it was just working on that, starting to eat the head of this fish. And he was saying that they're really amazing animals, these otters, because they don't have any predators, and they're able to swim in the water, and they can fish. Like this one had caught this bull trout, so they're able to feed off marine animals and fish and stuff like that, clams, mollusks. And then if a bird is flying too close to the water and lands on a log or something, they can just grab up and feed off of birds and other like flying animals. So the otter is an apex predator. If you don't believe me, you can Google that. It's true. They don't have any natural predators. They are at the top of the food chain in the places that they hunt. And so what I started thinking about is, which are the companies that are the apex predators? And there are not, in my view, I haven't seen a lot of them. I'll tell you a few that kind of come to mind. Especially about 5 years ago, Amazon was viewed as the apex predator in the online retail space. So if you wanted to sell something online, you were going to have to compete against Amazon. I think this is still largely the case, but you're going to have to outcompete them on price. You're going to have to provide better logistics. You're going to have to get that product from somebody's, from a warehouse to somebody's house after they click that buy button faster than the competition. And so it's really, really hard to beat Amazon at that game. Many companies have tried and are still trying to outdo Amazon, but it's largely a losing proposition to try to beat that apex predator when it comes to online retail, ahead of other companies that they're eating their lunch. I started investing in Nvidia a few years ago. It was just a small position, a few shares of stock, and I've added to it since. And this was before this whole AI thing became really big. But I just had a feeling, and this is a thing about investing. You don't know all the time which companies are going to become the apex predators. If I had known about Nvidia 5 years, 10 years ago, I would have, of course, invested a lot more, because it has smoked most stocks out there. But when we look back at why, it's because they are the leader. They are the best. They are the strongest fighter in the GPU space. And so anybody who wants to develop a car or a video game, a computer, or wants to work on gaming is going to have GPU chips, and they want the best. Everybody who does computer gaming wants to have Nvidia chips, and this is like the one place to go. One other company that I never thought of until about a year or two ago as an apex company is Microsoft. Kind of surprisingly, because I think Microsoft was kind of this sleepy giant for a long time. Sure, they did the Windows operating system, and everybody knows about Microsoft Word and stuff like that, but it wasn't a very exciting company, and it just had this monopoly on kind of business computers, desktop computers, operating systems. With Satya Nadella and the new leadership, they've developed their cloud computing through Azure, and now they've really taken the leadership role when it comes to AI and ChatGPT. So they're now in a position where other companies like Google, I mean, who would have known that Google, you know, with YouTube and all of its other properties, its advertising business, would actually be in a position of playing catch up? But that's exactly what's happened. Google, who used to be considered by many to be one of those apex companies, is now starting to drift down. The stock is not doing as well as Microsoft's in recent past. And that's because I think Microsoft has really cemented its place in the hearts and minds of investors as the one to beat now. One other example of an apex predator when it comes to a company is Apple, mainly because of their iPhone. Now, sure, they make laptops and they make AirPods and they make watches and all that, and people love that stuff. But when it comes to the iPhone, I believe this is where Apple really dominates. They are at the top. They are the apex predator of the smartphone market. I'll be the first to say it's really hard to beat the market. And if you guys have been watching this channel for a while, you'll know that every month, this goes back now, not only this year, but last year, I invest in VTI, which is the Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF. And I just invest in that because it gives me diversified exposure to all the largest companies in the US and also the medium size and the smallest. But it's heavily weighted to the big companies. And I just do this mainly to admit that I don't know exactly which stocks are going to outperform in the next 5 or 10 years. And I'm investing for that long term, 20 years, 30 years. So, I mean, I stick to that as the foundation of my investing. But as you guys also know, for example, this year I've been investing every month in 5 different ETFs. I will just quickly review those for you guys so you'll have an idea of what I've been up to. The first one is AVUV, which is the Avantis Small Cap Value ETF. The second is VB, which is the Vanguard Small Cap ETF. VTV is Vanguard Value ETF. VGT is the Vanguard Information Technology, and VHT is the Vanguard Healthcare ETF. And I just choose those because my goal has been to come up with a portfolio of 5 ETFs that would actually beat VTI. That was my goal. I didn't think I could necessarily pick 5 stocks this year. Didn't know which stocks are going to beat the market. But I thought I learn a lot, I understand a lot about ETFs, I'll pick these 5. I will say they have not quite kept up with VTI. Honestly, I did the math yesterday. It looks like they've returned about 5% combined average together. And VTI is up about 7% so far in 2023. But the year's not over. I will say I'm glad I picked VGT as one of them. I picked VGT, that's the Vanguard Information Technology, because I didn't want to be left out if technology stocks and growth stocks, information technology, did well this year. And man, am I glad I picked it, because that particular ETF is up, I think, 19.33% so far year to date as of the 14th of April, 2023. And if it were not for that ETF, man, this portfolio would not be doing too well, because it's very, very heavily weighted towards small caps and value stocks. But this particular one has really helped keep things afloat. So goes to show, even my best attempts at beating the market, picking 5 ETFs I could have picked from any of them out there, they have not really kept up with VTI. And I'm very thankful that I've stuck with my program of every month at the beginning of the month investing in VTI, because sometimes the simplest things are also the best. Being realistic about it, there are hundreds of thousands, no, millions of investors who are just as smart and maybe even smarter and more hardworking, and they're busting their butts to learn about these companies. Some of them have access to information and ability to learn about stuff that I can't even touch. And so as much as I like to think I'm smarter and can pick the right stocks or ETFs, it's hard. It's really hard. If it were easy to pick those apex predator stocks a little bit ahead of time before everybody else knew, then you could easily get rich and outperform the market. But it's very hard to detect these discrepancies when things are cheap in relative to their value, or just to pick the stocks that are going to be the next big thing. So I think that broadly based diversified ETFs or index funds like VTI or VTSAX make a lot of sense for investors like you and me who are just trying to harness the earnings of all of these amazing companies over long periods of time. Reminder here, this is not advice on how to invest. You should not listen to me. You shouldn't listen to any YouTuber as to what you should do. Anybody telling you that they know what to do or what's going to do best is full of it. So do your own research. I'm glad you're watching this because if nothing else, it just gives you a little bit more of an idea of how I think about investing, and maybe it will give you some ideas and help you to understand stocks and ETFs better. So what do you think about this idea of apex investing? I like the idea of picking companies that are beating competition. They're just got that edge and they can eat their lunch because they're hungry and because they're the boss. They're the boss of their food chain. I'm trying to figure out some other companies. Tesla got a real great first mover advantage when it came to electric vehicles, but it's not clear that they are the apex predator. And that's why I think in many ways that stock has come down from like incredible heights of a year or two ago, because there are companies here in the US that are building out their electric vehicle fleet. In China, companies like BYD are really strong competitors and are really giving Tesla a run for the money. And there's no guarantee that everyone's going to be driving electric cars in 5 years or 10 years. So there's an example of a company that many people saw as the apex predator in the electric vehicle space, but it's not for sure. And as I've said before in this video, even there are no guarantees with investing that the company that you think is going to be the apex predator is going to wind up doing that. So share with me what you guys think. Are there any stocks out there that you think represent just amazing potential, because the company behind that stock is somehow in a position where they own their sector, where they are that much better than the competition? Because I think that's where the truly great investing ideas come from, especially if you can perceive this maybe a year or 2 years or 3 years before everyone else figures it out. And I guess if you know this, you probably don't want to type it into the comment section because you want to keep that idea for you and you alone. But if you have any ideas or thoughts, just in the spirit of sharing with the YouTube community and sharing with me, I'd be real interested. So put any ideas about companies or stocks in the comment section. And it's good to see you guys again. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you have not yet subscribed, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to the channel. I am so glad you guys stopped by today. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comment section below. They always generate an interesting dialogue. So glad you watched, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.